This week on Jerusalem Dateline, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo pays a brief visit to Israel, but with a packed agenda. And Shelanu, the controversy over one of Israel's newest cable channels, a Hebrew Messianic Jewish station. Plus, Israel Rising, a look at the miraculous rebirth of the State of Israel. And one of Israel's best-loved cartoonists tells us why he's the creator of Dry Bones. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited Israel and spent less than 9 hours on the ground. But his visit dealt with some vital political and geopolitical issues. For Secretary Pompeo's first trip abroad since the COVID lockdown, his short time in Israel came with a loaded agenda. It included growing threats from both Iran and China, President Trump's Middle East peace plan, and of course, the worldwide pandemic impact.
We'll certainly talk about the challenges the globe faces with COVID, Israeli technology, Israeli medical expertise, all of the things that you and I and our teams can work on together. I know we'll deliver good outcomes and decrease risk for people all across the world from this global pandemic.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave thanks and the reasons for how the U.S. is working to keep Israel safe from its number one enemy.
First, by withdrawing from the dangerous Iran deal. Second, by taking head-on the masters of Iranian terror. Third, by going after continuing the arms embargo against Iran that has not stopped for a minute. Its aggressive designs and its aggressive actions against Americans, Israelis, and everyone else in the region.
Pompeo also met with blue and white leader Benny Gantz, slated to become prime minister in 18 months as part of the new unity government. Beyond Israel's domestic policies, Pompeo alluded to a major reason behind his visit, the growing threat of China.
They see Israel as a central place for technology, for dual-use equipment, and really tapping into the startup nation. So it's of deep concern to policymakers here in Washington.
Mark Dubovich says the U.S. is deeply concerned about agreements between Israel and China, especially a contract giving China control of the country's main port of Haifa for 25 years.
The U.S. Navy docks in Haifa, very close to the port that the Chinese are going to be running. And so obviously there's a security concern, there's a political concern.
Dubovich says Israel gets the message.
They've taken some significant steps in the right direction, including setting up an investment advisory committee, which will review future investments in order to not make the mistake they made with the China port. Security services in Israel are ensuring that the Chinese Communist Party does not use that for nefarious objectives or for intelligence penetration.
Pompeo's meeting came on the eve of two milestones: 72 years since President Truman recognized the State of Israel, and 2 years since President Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Like farmers in the U.S., Israeli farmers are also struggling to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin visited farmers around the Gaza Strip to encourage them. And as CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl tells us, he came away encouraged himself.
President Rivlin began his tour in the sunflower fields of Kibbutz Ein HaShlosha, very close to the Gaza Strip.
The coronavirus has opened our eyes to things that were once taken for granted, and we simply forgot them. For example, the importance of the foundation of this country, one of which is agriculture.
He met with farmers from the Eshkol region around Gaza, which supplies about 60% of produce for the Israeli domestic market. That's despite the fact that the area is under constant threat from terror tunnels, rocket attacks, and most recently, fire kites and balloons from Gaza.
I'm so happy to be here in the area around Gaza, or the area surrounding Israel, a place that we talk about only in security terms, or a place to have a nicer apartment.
Rivlin visited the agri-food tech company Heinemann, where he was introduced to Mankai duckweed. After 8 years of research, the green leafy vegetable has been dubbed the future of food. Mankai is grown in the largest greenhouse pools of their kind in the world using a growing environment controlled by sensors, a computerized system, and a secret fertilizer formula. It contains nutrients that are believed to boost the immune system, a major plus in this season of dealing with COVID-19.
For the first time in history, we have the possibility to continue eating what we consumers like, but in a way that is healthier.
Rivlin wrapped up his tour at Kibbutz Sa'ad, where he rode in a combine harvester and started the season's wheat harvest. The president had a message for Israelis.
Israel's independence is the most important thing, and without agriculture, Israel has no independence. From here, I ask you, Israeli citizens, buy blue and white, buy Israeli produce, buy the wonderful produce from here.
Julie Stahl, CBN News.
Up next, Shelanu, a new cable channel in Israel that is raising issues about proselytizing and freedom of religion.
Roman soldiers destroy the Second Temple of Jerusalem. Centuries of eyewitnesses say the temple treasures survived. But where are they?
They went from Jerusalem to Rome, Rome to Carthage, Carthage to Byzantium.
Historians are silent about what happened to it next.
CBN Documentaries presents the worldwide release of Treasures of the Second Temple.
So does it still exist today?
A story of mystery.
Where is it?
Calamity. Most of the victims were butchered. And destiny.
The possibility to dig is impossible.
Get your copy of Treasures of the Second Temple. Yours for a gift of any amount to CBN Documentaries.
The people of Israel need your prayers as they battle the COVID-19 virus. In CBN's free guide, How You Can Pray for Israel During the Coronavirus Pandemic, you'll discover ways to pray for Israel's leaders and government officials, healthcare providers on the front lines, Holocaust survivors and the elderly, struggling families, and more. Get your free copy of this valuable prayer guide. Call now or go to cbn.com/pray4Israel today.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Shelanu. It's a Hebrew word that means hours. It's also the name of a new channel on the Hut Cable network here in Israel. The channel is owned by God TV and broadcasts messages by Messianic Jews, Jews who believe Jesus, or Yeshua in Hebrew, is the Jewish Messiah. But a fundraising video by God TV claiming it would beam the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ into every Israeli home in Hebrew raised objections by some that it would violate 2 Israeli laws: proselytizing by using material means as an incentive to convert someone, and proselytizing to minors without both parents' consent. Israel's Minister of Communication threatened to take Shelanu off the air if it was a, quote, missionizing channel. And Jerusalem's deputy mayor criticized the channel and tweeted, We're not trying to convert Jews. We just want them to accept Jesus as the Messiah. Reminds me of when people say, we don't hate Jews, we just don't believe they should have the right to self-determination like everyone else. The Hot Cable Network will soon respond to the Ministry of Communications' concerns. While the fate of the channel is being decided, we talk to those on opposite sides of this controversy. First, with Jewish leader Israel Medad, who works with Christian Friends of Israeli Communities, and Ron Cantor, a local Messianic Jew and God TV's representative here in Israel. Israel, first of all, thanks so much for joining us on Jerusalem Dateline. You know, the issue of Shelanu has been very controversial here in Israel. Tell us what your views are on that.
Well, I want to make it clear that I think that each and every religion should have its freedom of worship, and there's no interference in internal affairs of any church or any congregation or any synagogue. However, the message that we got very strongly from God TV was that this broadcasting license that they recently gained was specifically to missionize, to share Jesus with the Jews of Israel. And that is a very touchy question and partially illegal. However, the problem is that the broadcasting, there's no restrictions on it. It can go to underage, it can go all over the place. And I think that a lot of people who appreciate what we call Christian Zionism and love of Israel would be harmed by this interference in the makeup of the relationship between us and those Christians who love Israel.
They would say, Israel from Shelanu, that this is a matter of free speech. They're sharing their own testimonies, their own way of life. How would you respond to that?
Well, they could do that in many ways. Broadcasting is a different situation altogether. And if it was, and since it is cable television, if it goes directly into those homes which are being serviced by the congregation, who believe that they want to believe in Jesus, that is all right. But if it is an instrument that could be used and probably will be used in order to convert Jews, this is an historical issue that goes beyond Israel. It goes back centuries. And I don't think that this should be the way Christians and Jews in Israel will be developing a future relationship.
Give us your final views on this whole matter.
I welcome all Christian Zionist support for Israel. I think it's part of the new relationship that is being built on the basis of Israel as the Jewish state and Jews as a nation. And I think that this interference, this initiative was not well thought out, and I think it can be corrected.
Well, Ron, first of all, thanks for joining us on Jerusalem Dateline. Tell us what Shelanu is and where is its content coming from?
Shelanu is a brand new TV station in Israel on the Hot Cable Network. About a year ago, we were approached by Hot. They asked if we wanted to come back on the air. And we said, well, we'll consider it if we can do it in Hebrew. We want to share what we believe with Israel in Hebrew. And they said, no problem. I was stunned. I was shocked. I asked a few more times. We went through a process that ended about 2 weeks ago with the birthing of Shelanu TV. It's a platform for local Messianic Jews, for Christian Arabs, and a few international Christian media outlets to be able to share with believers here in Israel, as well as the whole country, who we are as believers in Yeshua. The content is, it's roughly 70% in Hebrew, 70% from local Israelis, most of them what we call Sabari, meaning a native-born Israeli. This isn't about God TV in England or in America. God TV underwrote this program, this channel, but they then gave it as a gift to the local Messianic community, and they said, you're going to have to come up with the programming. And so we have worship music, we have teaching, we have people sharing their stories of how they found Yeshua, and it's quite exciting.
Well, Ron, you've been accused of missionizing, proselytizing. What do you say to those people quickly? their objections? How do you address their objections to Shelanu?
First of all, I am Jewish. I am an Israeli. I pay taxes here. My wife, all my daughters, they were in the IDF and the armies. It's kind of hard to be a missionary in your home country. I, as a Jewish believer in Yeshua, and simply sharing what I believe with my fellow Israelis. And that's what Shelanu is. It is mostly, as I said, Israelis. Now, again, these young people who are sharing their music or sharing their testimonies or stories, they're willing to go to the army to fight for Israel and maybe even die for Israel. How can we silence their voices? Don't they have freedom of speech? This is not Iran. This is not Saudi Arabia. This is Israel. We're the only democracy in the Middle East, and we value freedom of speech. And let me be clear, Chris, the opposition is a vocal minority. The vast majority of Israelis are not threatened by Shelanu.
So, Ron, is it true that the Shelanu is there to convert Jews?
No, absolutely not. If you read the New Testament, all of the followers of Jesus were Jewish, literally all of them. It was years later before Gentiles began to believe in Jesus. But when these Jews began to believe in Jesus, none of them converted. They didn't even call themselves Christians. In fact, the first question they asked Yeshua after he rose from the dead was, are you now going to restore the kingdom to Israel? When a Jewish person believes in Yeshua, they are not leaving Judaism for Christianity. They're simply finding their Messiah.
Coming up, a look at Israel now and then, and how some say it shows the Bible is coming to life.
Now, for a limited time, you can get 5 of CBN's critically acclaimed documentaries. Experience the rebirth of the modern state of Israel.
The historic bonds between the Jewish people and the land of Israel cannot be broken.
Relive the battle for Jerusalem in the Six-Day War.
Jerusalem is yours, forever.
Discover how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
When people need us, we volunteer and we come and help.
Explore the world of Israeli technological innovation.
We're people of dreams. God gives us dreams. And that's really the roots, I think, of much of our innovation.
And understand the biggest land dispute in history.
Many Palestinian Arabs claim that the Jews stole Arab land. But is that the real story?
This exclusive Israel DVD collection can be yours for a gift of $40 or more. Call now or go online to get your Israel DVD bundle today.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Nearly 3,000 years ago, Hebrew prophets wrote of how the land of Israel would be transformed. Here's a story we did a couple of years ago about a book that shows remarkable and even prophetic changes in the more than 70 years since Israel became a nation. It's an example of what you can see on our virtual Israel tour on our Facebook and YouTube pages. 150 years ago, famed author Mark Twain visited the Holy Land and wrote, "It was a desolate country and a silent and mournful expanse."
He talks about up in the Jezreel Valley, he talks about how that you can travel in 10 miles in any direction and not see a single person. And so one of the towns that we did some photography was of a small town of Afula, which is really off the map as far as many Westerners are concerned, but it was established in the early 1900s. So 50, 60 years after Mark Twain, there's a small Jewish settlement. And today it's a booming Israeli city that we've been able to match some side-by-side perfect photography with it.
Doug Hershey and his team chose 200 photographs of Israel from the 1880s to the 1940s. In his new book, Israel Rising, The Land of Israel Reawakens, Hershey chronicles the changes from that time span until today.
That's been part of the joy. I mean, we have these old photos of Tel Aviv of less than 100 years ago of shacks on sand dunes with camel caravans on the beach, and to compare it from the exact same angle today, it's just stunning.
The book follows Ezekiel's promise, where in chapter 36, verse 8, the prophet declared, "But you, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for they are about to come."
We think of prophecy being to kings or to people or nations, but he's prophesying to the land that when Israel returns as a nation, branches will put forth fruit, waste cities will be rebuilt, the people and beasts will be multiplied on the land will be cultivated and sown.
These side-by-side photos show the transformations. Here's Jerusalem near the King David Hotel in the 1930s, and the same view today. This is the Hebrew University campus in 1925, and what it looks like now. From the north in Haifa to the south in Beersheba, Hershey says the pictures represent the prophet's words coming alive.
We're living in a really profound time in history. We're living in a time where 2,700-year-old prophecies from Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah, they've been lying dormant for about that long, and many of them are coming to pass. The most repeated promise through the scriptures is that God will bring his people back to the land, and when they do, there's going to be these dramatic changes, and we're seeing those.
Hershey says the land itself seemed to be waiting for its ancient people to return.
To me, it's one of the most profound things here, is this land has been conquered 15, 20 different times. It never becomes a homeland for any other people group, and the land would never produce for any other people group. And Israel moves back in, and suddenly the vast desert wastelands are now producing flowers, they're producing fruit. Isaiah 27 talks about how that when Israel returns, Jacob will take root and fill the earth with fruit. And for many centuries, believers would read that and look at that as allegorical or spiritual, and we're finding today it's very literal. It's happening right now.
Hershey says the book provides a visual opportunity for those who have never visited Israel, and it's also struck a chord with the younger generations.
Most millennials are ready for something real. They want to see something practical. It's as far as much of perhaps theological Christianity that they've been raised on, more ideas. They're ready for something solid. They're ready for something real. And so even now when I speak in the States, sometimes I'll have questions about theology or questions about the land, and usually my answer revolves around, let me show you. Come with me to Israel, I'll show you myself.
As Israel celebrates its 70th anniversary, Hershey sees Israel as a miracle.
Absolutely. I mean, Israel is the time clock, as many people have heard and have said, and I believe that as well. I mean, there's so much that is happening here in a very short amount of time. To me, it's one of the most profound miracles of our day.
Up next, a look at the origins of one of Israel's most beloved cartoons.
CBN Israel, standing with Israel and blessing God's people. Join us. Get breaking news from the Holy Land. Witness biblical history uncovered. Learn the true story of Israel through groundbreaking films. Help Holocaust survivors and other Israelis in need. Be part of the redemptive story God is telling through his chosen people. CBN Israel. Together we will stand. Join CBN Israel today.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Dry Bones is one of the most well-known cartoons in the world. It's read by millions, and the creative genius behind the cartoon, Yaakov Kirshen, explains how he came up with the unusual name for his work.
When I came to Israel and decided I would start doing a cartoon, I thought, well, I needed a name, like Kirshen's Corner, with corner spelt with a K. And I kept thinking, what should it be? And then I realized that one of the things that had brought me to Israel was my reading of the book of Ezekiel. And in the book of Ezekiel, this guy Ezekiel, who lived 2,600 years ago, saw a vision of what for him was the far future. And that was of a time when it looked like the world had destroyed the Jewish people. But at that point, we would come out of our graves, and the image he saw was of a valley filled with dry bones. And these bones came together, like the knee bone connected to the shin bone and all like that. And in that imagery, he saw the rebuilding of the Jewish state. He saw the coming together and the ingathering of the Jewish people. He saw the rebuilding of the cities and the planting of the trees. And therefore, if I was going to do a cartoon about what was happening today, all I could do would be to add to what he had seen incredibly 2,600 years ago. And so I decided to call it Dry Bones, thinking that everyone would understand.
Well, from dry bones to Israel rising, the prophet Ezekiel had a lot to say about what is happening in Israel today. Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.